Nostalgia is quite a powerful sort of sensation, isn't it? And it can be brought around by music and smell normally. Those two things are the two things that normally provoke a sort of real sensation of being back somewhere before. Which I think that's what makes music powerful, the fact that you can actually bring in total recall. But on this particular project, to be honest, it became an exercise in sort of thinking about the future and creating a second disc with loads of outtakes to create a balance against a disc which was supposedly all your achievements over 15 years or whatever. The main concentrated effort went into disc 2, you know, digging out like loose sketches and remixes and odd collaborations and film soundtrack stuff which people wouldn't have necessarily heard in the same place, and making a disc which kind of felt like it was the opposite of disc 1. So it wasn't really so much an exercise in nostalgia, but kind of like putting another record out. I figured that anyone could put together a best of list these days for any band, you know, and you know, like I think you can make a list on iTunes. You can sort of, you know, if you wanted to get our previous material, you can make your own playlist and add it to other playlists. And it felt that, you know, you didn't want to do it in chronological order. You just had to put it in an order which felt right for that particular afternoon.
We put, you know, tracks that were sort of 15 years old with tracks that are now. You know, it's kind of good because the actual sonics of the tracks, because they've obviously been, some of them have been retouched. The sonics were still there, and the actual atmosphere sort of go together quite well, you know. So we're quite surprised to, you know, to see what, you know, from Blue Lines to 100th Window, the fact that, you know, the tracks have sat together quite nicely, really. To
be honest, there are two tracks which you probably felt that you'd start an album with. One was Safe from Harm, one was Angel, because they both have great intros, basically. It's as simple as that, you know. So you think, right, which one's got the best intro? Safe from Harm, that'll do then. And it wasn't much more deep than that, really. It was more of a musical decision than a sort of like a diplomatic decision. How the tracks would sort of correspond with each other, almost like how the intro works of one with the outro of the previous track, and what the sort of, you know, what the music was doing and what we'll do next, which is kind of like, you know, how you would do it live, in a sense. You know, you think about that dynamic, and there are also criteria. You know, you had to include certain things, and you had to include certain albums or make albums be represented. You know, and I spent quite a lot of time looking at our website and our forum, and realised pretty quick that everyone had a different opinion on what should be on it, and you'd never be able to please everyone. I think with the track being a modern blues track, and Jonathan Glazer being very much into the song and what it was kind of communicating, he wanted to try and do something on video the same way, and he talks about the culture of alcoholism, and within sort of like the groups in the UK, particularly in Britain, within individuals, but not to present a study of an alcoholic as someone who'd been through it their whole lives and it was a train wreck, but someone who was about to crash, you know, someone who was crashing constantly, and the idea of that people constantly on a daily basis are fighting demons and will drink themselves into oblivion to get away, to escape. And that was, you know, something that I think really was conveyed in the video, which was amazing. You know, it's a really great story. It manages to be gripping and engrossing all the time, but every time I watch it, even though you're watching one person on camera, you're not watching a series of edits, you're not watching, like, you're not being distracted by kind of like ideas and products and places and people. It's just this one person and their sort of journey into oblivion or whatever, you know. And you end up in between sort of heaven and hell so much, which is beautiful. I love all that. It's like the song, it makes you want to, you know, grab someone and kiss them. It makes you want to sort of be with someone. And in the video, it makes you want to sort of like, you know, be with her and help her and stuff, you know, and that rather than being repulsed or disgusted or angry about what she's doing, which some people may be, but I think they're missing. If they are, then they've got, you know, there's something wrong with them, because you want to actually sort of reach out, and if a beautiful song can make you want to reach out, then that's the best it can do. The idea was we didn't want an actress. That was the kind of first thing, not to get an actress pretending to be drunk, because you can't do that, it's impossible, you know. You're always acting, aren't you? You know, and she, you know, obviously performed, you know, amazingly, but she also was drinking. It was a proper experience, and the idea was to capture that on film, that experience of someone drinking themselves into sort of right into the darkness, man, you know, all the way. And that is, I think, something we've all done, and often we'll all do it in groups and with friends. But what was disturbing about this was the way it highlighted how people did that on their own, and that was something it had to convey, because the song is a very personal, carries a very sort of strong personal sort of like emotion and a very strong personal message, and it had to be highlighted and reflected in the video, which I think John really, it's a tough job and he managed to do it. Paul Gore directed it, and it is pretty much a still life portrait of someone forced into a situation where they're forced to sort of be in a riot situation, throwing a petrol bomb, and it's done in ultra slow motion, almost like frames, and it's very beautiful, it's very sad, and it's very now, you know.